Why is now a dangerous time to buy an RV?
If you're RV shopping, here's what you need to know and what to look out for.
So why is now a really bad time to buy an RV?
In this video, we're going to share why this is a bad time, what the RV industry is doing about it, and most importantly, what you need to know to be an educated consumer. So RVing has been in demand for a while now, and we've seen more and more people getting interested in RVing.
Yeah, it's hot right now.
And the first reason why now is possibly the worst time ever to buy an RV actually has to do with the pandemic.
And there has been explosive growth over the last few months within the industry.
So the first way that the pandemic made this the worst time to buy an RV is that the demand increased more than ever. All of a sudden, traveling in an airplane was not that appealing to people.
Or taking a vacation to another country. Because of the pandemic especially, people just know that they can't fly. You know, they want to stay close to their families. You can't really go in small spaces with a lot of other people.
So that increased the demand for RVs a bunch. But the other thing that happened at the same time was that the RV plants had to shut down due to the pandemic. So all of a sudden you saw a huge increase in demand, but it was coupled with a huge decrease in supply. But the third thing that happened was that the dealerships stayed open. So the dwindling supply dwindled even further. And all of a sudden you have very, very few RVs, a huge demand for them, but it gets worse. So reason number two, why now is probably the worst time to buy an RV, actually has to do with the supply chain. And not the supply chain of RVs in and of themselves, but the supply chain of the components that belong inside said RVs.
Exactly. There's thousands of different components that go into an RV, and because the supply chain has been broken and we're having a bit of a trade war with China, it is difficult to get parts for RVs to complete them. We're hearing that the plants have hundreds of RVs that they cannot complete right now across the board. They can't get the parts to complete these RVs. They're way behind. Ultimately, what this is going to cause, even though there's a boom right now, it's ultimately going to cause a lot of problems in the next 6 months to a year.
They can't finish the RVs because they don't have things like the windows or the air conditioners. So it's not just the RVs themselves that are hard to come by, but the actual components that go inside them to make them work are also becoming increasingly hard to come by.
One of the things a lot of people don't realize is that the same companies and the same products go into different RVs. No matter what the manufacturer or the brand is, these things are built out of pretty much the same components across the board. Go to your local dealership, you're going to notice a huge lack of inventory where they're actually shuffling these RVs around the long way so that it looks like there's more inventory than they actually have.
Yeah, they're trying to space them out and cover the fact that the lots are bare. They need RVs bad.
So if you're selling RVs or you're an RV dealership, times are great for you right now, right? People are lined up to get RVs. There's not enough supply to take care of that.
And the industry has taken notice that these components are missing. In fact, RV News, a very reputable news source that covers all things related to manufacturing, has noted that they are actually expecting customer experience and customer satisfaction to decrease. They are expecting the end of 2020 and even rolling into 2021 to be a very tough time in the RV industry. Despite the fact that sales are high, the customer experience will suffer due to the break in the supply chain.
Believe it or not, there are dealerships and manufacturers who are delivering these RVs as complete, and they're not, or they have broken parts and pieces. So if you are going to try to buy an RV at right now the hottest time in the history of the RV space, you better be very careful about how you do it. Make sure you have an inspector and have somebody with you that knows how to navigate these waters.
The third reason why now is the absolute worst time to buy an RV is that we are in a seller's market.
What does that mean? It means that demand is through the roof and inventory is super low. Customers are a dime a dozen right now. If the deal falls through with you, they don't give a crap because there's 10 people behind you that's going to step in.
I didn't know this when I was a new RV buyer, but before the pandemic and before this happened to the RV industry, RVs used to sell at 20 to 30% below MSRP. Not today. Today they're getting bid up higher and higher, and if you're not willing to pay the price tag on the sticker, someone else behind you is. And the art of negotiating and trying to get that better deal, it's really hard to do that when there's so many RV buyers.
If you're going to buy right now, because there's such a lack of inventory, one thing you don't want to do is you never want to settle on the RV that you really truly want. It takes a long time to figure out what's going to work best for you and your family. So never settle for an RV.
So being a seller's market, RV sales are through the roof, right? But the service departments in the RV dealerships cannot keep up. So not only are the service centers struggling because of the limited supply of the RV components, but the service centers just don't have the manpower to service all of the RVs that are flying out of the store.
Everyone should try to buy through a local mom and pop small business, not the big boys, because they love to push them out the front door. But RV dealerships are notorious for slow response and horrible service when it comes to fixing your RV or warranty issues.
The bottom line is that the RVs are selling faster than they can be serviced. Compounding this problem is reason number 5, which is the influx of new, dare I say, naive RV buyers.
Yeah.
Now, I can say that because we ourselves are naive, uneducated RV buyers. If you haven't heard our story about buying our first RV, we were so naive.
Well, and we call them dreamers, right? Dreamers are the ones that kind of get the bug from the RV industry, right? You think the grass is always going to be greener on the other side. If I sell all my stuff or I just buy the perfect RV, me and the family, we can go out camping, have campfires, right?
It'll be wonderful.
It'll be wonderful. But dealers know this. When you're brand new to the market, the dealerships, the salespeople can smell it on you. They're going to take advantage of you if you're not paying attention.
I didn't know this as a newbie to RVing. I assumed that when I bought an RV that the process would have certain consumer protections similar to that of buying a car or similar to that of buying a house.
Nope.
No, the RV industry does not have the same consumer protections, and the RV dealerships can get away with a lot of things that you could never get away with when buying a car or buying a house. And what I mean by this is reason number 6, that the contracts are strategically designed to benefit the dealerships and not the buyers. Let us know in the comments if you want a video specific as to what to watch out for on the contract, but we're just going to give you a few examples here.
One of the things you want to look at very closely when you're looking at a contract is they try to sell them to you in as-in condition. Even if you're ordering them, RV dealerships try to write contracts that are as-is condition, which means that the only help you can really truly get is through the manufacturer.
Yeah, it's really hard to buy an RV as is when it hasn't even been built yet. So those of you that are buying new RVs that haven't even been built yet, look at that in the contract. But unfortunately, even if you walk away, it doesn't really matter because there's a line of people behind you that will buy an RV that hasn't even been built yet, and they will sign on the dotted line that they approve it in as-is condition, even though it doesn't even exist.
The next thing you got to be super careful with, guys, is they like to sneak up on you with price increases, especially when you're ordering an RV, right?
This price increase is a really scary one. So we understand that sometimes the manufacturers will raise their prices, and given how hard materials are to come by, it's understandable that they would do so. But the problem is that many of these contracts are designed in such a way that you're signing your rights away and you've agreed to a price increase that you don't even know about that could happen in the future.
Yeah, we just had a member of the RV Odd Squad walk in to buy an RV. He put down a deposit. He ordered an RV, a really nice RV, but the dealership called him 2 days later after he had already put his deposit down and told him there was going to be a $5,000 increase on the RV that he had just ordered. Obviously, he was pretty upset about that and he canceled that contract.
Not only are people signing as is contracts, not only are people signing that they approve of price increases that haven't even happened yet, but also many times the contracts have clauses in there that you give up your rights for attorney protections, you give up your right to sue, you give up your right to talk about this stuff publicly, which is really, really problematic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the reality is that the bigger RV dealerships tend to have the worst contracts out there.
And also the worst service.
And number 7, the other reason why now is perhaps the worst time to buy an RV is that the campgrounds have not been able to adjust for the huge surge in demand. So not only do you not have the proper parts, is it going to take forever to get the service, but assuming you're able to buy an RV and finally able to use it, it's going to be really hard to find a place to park it.
Especially in high season around the country, guys. So it's almost going to be next to impossible to book a month out down in Florida in the wintertime. During the summer, it's going to be very difficult to book in California, some of the most beautiful parks in the country, right? You're going to have a really hard time finding somewhere to camp because the demand is so high right now.
Now, our intention here is to warn you. We're not scaring you because there's so many awesome parts about RVing. So if you're dead set in buying an RV right now, even though we've totally warned you about all these reasons not to, in the next video, we're going to talk about what you need to do if you do insist on buying an RV right now. We're going to give you a story of someone who had to go through 3 dealerships.
There was a whole team guiding him.
And we're going to share with you what he did so that he didn't get taken advantage of. We'll see you in the next video.